Thanks everybody for coming back. I know this is tough, it's right after lunch, but you can tell these three gentlemen are ready to go. They've been standing here ready to kick off. So please welcome, you can see it's Karsten and Bernard from Vienna Insurance, and we've got Ferdinand from IFB. They're going to take you through the slides. They're going to be a little bit more interactive. They're standing up, not sitting down, so if they walk up and down the aisle, I guess we have to pay attention. So also just remind everybody at the end of the session, if you could go on to the event app, click on the survey, and please give them a 5. 5 is good. Very much appreciate your feedback. So I'll shut up, sit down, and turn it over to you guys to talk about your stuff.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Welcome to our after-lunch fitness program. So we'll start now. You heard the music just before, so I think everybody is in good mood. We want to talk a bit about our Fpsl project, and we called it Fpsl in the real world. First of all, short introduction. So I'm very happy to be here and to have a very good team with our key players from the program management and our Fpsl expert. Myself, I'm a pure maths, and I would say hijacked by IT and insurance. Bernard,
Good, just a few words. Bernard Panel, my name. So I'm responsible within this all IFRS 17 and Fpsl world for the program management and the overall coordination of our work streams. So I'm, of course, very deeply working with my colleagues Karsten Dehner and also, of course, Ferdinand Tischler on the whole IT architecture, but of course also with our other work streams, which are in the actuarial, in the accounting, and also asset risk management, as we are combining IFRS 17 with IFRS 9 hand in hand.
Yes, thank you, Bernard. So my name is Ferdinand Tischler. As Karsten said, I'm with IFB, and I joined the VIG Fpsl implementation 3 years ago. So I've gone basically all the way with them, and yeah, happy to be here together with you guys today. Thanks.
So good. Sorry, we can't avoid that. So as well, some words about our company, Vienna Insurance Group. We are a group, and we are here in this region. So we are market leader in Central Eastern Europe. So this means starting from Austria and going to east in direction of Georgia, in the north to Scandinavia. And so on. We are multi-label. Our core value is local entrepreneurship, and that's our focus, and that makes life difficult for us to integrate all the data. I have a long history, so we started with opening the big wall in 1989, and our group grew up, and we are still growing. Integrating new companies, but leaving them locally with own labels, with own products, with own infrastructure and processes.
Good, and just also make it very easy and very short. So this is just an overview that you get an impression on how our project was structured. We are having more than 50 entities, and VIG is working quite, let's say, heterogeneous. So we are having different source systems in all of our entities, which is, of course, somehow also increasing our pure IFRS 17 program, also coming to that point that we are trying to harmonize as much as possible and creating a layer. To this layer, every our entity can connect to, and that for us, of course, makes it possible to move on. I think this is, for now, we also added here that we are, of course, in close cooperation with Erste Group, as we have realized that there are colleagues here. So this is also, of course, one where also VIG is trying to create an ecosystem together with the Erste Group, and, of course, combining insurance and bank business. Yeah.
Great. What would we like to talk about? So first topic will be our architecture and vision, our starting point, when Ferdi will talk about how to succeed with such a broad implementation, and Bernhard will talk mostly about the project and our runs. So first of all, architecture and vision. I want to pick up this picture because I have shown that, I think, 2019 in the Financial Services Forum in Bonn. We were the first customer of Fpsl and started very early with the implementation And exactly this was our starting picture, our architecture. So our CIO came to me and said, we need a IFS 17 tool. Can you have a look to it? And I Googled what's IFS 17 and saw, it's a big process coming from source systems, going to consolidation, something similar than Solvency II. And I said, no, please not tool 127. That's the chance to harmonize data, to integrate processes, and so on. And so I came into contact with Swiss Re and saw a very nice approach of Fpsl. And my focus for the discussions with the colleagues in the project was really the data view, not the IFS 17 view, and very especially the baseline data model, which enables a real multi-gap, not only parallel gaps, a real integrated multi-gap. And so we took this architecture picture here with Solvency II, IFRS, local gap, cost allocation, everything else which could be in the machine. And we said, oh, it's not possible to make such a big bang, so let's focus on an MVP, the pure IFS 17 stream, but please enable later enhancements. And so we tried to recognize the requirements of the BDA. Yeah? So we did an IFS implementation, but we considered really the BDA approach. We designed baselines, and we are delivering baseline cash flows to Fpsl, with which we can follow up later in other gaps. Yeah, that was the first picture, and here I want to show where we are now. You can see here the detailed architecture of Fpsl. I think the experts know that. We have some surroundings, as usual, with the general ledger, with consolidation system, reporting layer, and so on. But I want to focus here on this box on the second layer, the enhanced drop zone, because I think this is a very crucial topic to integrate all the data into Fpsl. And as Bernhard said, with our 50 entities, with diverse source system, this is very crucial and tricky. And so we established here enhanced drop zone, and we said maybe that's a chance for FSDM, FSDP on SAP side to enable as well such an implementation. But we not focused here only on technical level. We focused there as well on specification level. So we used the architecture framework from IFB. And we implemented all the specifications in Spark's Enterprise Architect. So we started, you see here from the topics. So we went through the IFS 17 standard and said, yes, this topic needs this function needs some data. The data are used in some processes, and we want to implement the functions in system X or epsilon, and so on. And so we have really a combined framework of requirements, and this framework delivered us as well all the interface specifications for our local entities with the data dictionary and everything. And so I think this is a big success factor for our project, because we hear from peer groups that especially the data integration is much difficult. And so I think that's the most important success factor. Ferdi will focus anyway on the Fpsl topics. Here are some insights in our dashboard. So out of this Spark's graph-oriented database, we built some dashboards to see the progress of all our entities in implementing their local target architectures. For sure, we had a central target architecture, which you have seen just before. And from the system side, every company had a local target architecture. We implemented that in Sparks, and we measured the progress. We measured as well the maturity level in such spider diagrams, and we were able to compare the data quality delivered by the companies with the progress of their target architecture, and there was a really nice correlation. Yeah, this slide shows that we can use the target architecture, the artifact framework, not only for a dedicated program, we can use that as well for change management. And change means something like IFS 1727, or maybe we want to sell cars tomorrow. This is a change, and we can manage this change through this framework. On the other side, we have technology changes like S/4HANA, and we can manage this change as well by our artifact framework. And I want to end up with this slide. This should only show the quantities which we sent for our systems. So we implemented around 136 use cases. We processed until the transition, I think. The transition is not included here. Over thousands of files. We had over 2 million of posting lines, 200 test cases. I think very impressive, 2,400 interfaces, and so on. You can see it here by yourself. And again, the success factor to manage all that was our artifact framework, and for sure our implementation in Fpsl, where we really found a good solution using Fpsl, filling the gaps by our architecture. And from my perspective, the software is very well usable for an IFS 17 implementation, and as well for performing all the processings.
Yes. Then I'll take over from you. Thank you, Carsten. As you said, we have a lot of use cases implemented, and we found solutions, some less creative solutions to fulfill all of VAG's requirements during the implementation. And I want to take all of you on a quick journey. No worry, I'm not going to open an Excel use case file and go into the system and show you some customizing. I want to focus on a case, and if you are interested in more details of this specific case, then feel free to contact me afterwards. I want to show you a case where we had a requirement to fulfill, and we made extensive use of the architecture like Carsten mentioned. The picture is a bit different because I want to highlight the two Fpsl machines which we have currently in place, a pre-production system and a production system, because like Carsten and Bernhard already mentioned, 50 companies throughout Central and Eastern Europe, new requirements, the files look different, yeah? The data delivery changes for everybody, and Bernhard will also mention something about our way through different data runs to come to the point where we are today, have shown delivering all of the inputs is difficult for everybody. The topic is new for everybody. So we have a second system where we enabled the company to deliver all of their stuff, and we produce the numbers, but it's not written in stone. Yeah? So we have more flexibility here and can produce the numbers but reverse them more easily, and then only after having the numbers already accepted, we move to a production system where we are then fixed on what we produce. And this has shown very valuable, and last but not least, again, like Carsten mentioned, the enhanced drop zone is at VIG an SQL-based harmonization layer before the actual data load. And the example I have Don't worry too much about the details. The idea is we have contracts under GMM where we choose an OCI option, so not move every effect of market data changes through the P&L, but also have some in OCI. And for certain contracts, the requirement for VAG would be to have per single group of insurance contracts an additional yield curve calculated, at best by the system, which enables you to split the amount which would normally go through OCI to have a separate part in P&L and one part in the OCI. And we have in the Fpsl a really great possibility for discounting with different yield curves. A lot of different yield curves can be used, and we made use of this even if we have now, today, to calculate the additional yield curve outside of Fpsl. Yeah? So we have an additional yield curve. It's currently calculated in actuarial systems, and we are not delivering it per gig, so per group of insurance contracts, but on an annual cohort level. And we are using the Fpsl for the discounting, so we have methods there, we have additional attributes to say, okay, in this case, for this annual cohort, please use a discounting with one rate, and for another, use a discounting with a separate rate. And we use the harmonization layer to simplify, and I think simplification is, in that large of a company, one of the key points for all companies. Simplify the data delivery for the subsidiaries who deliver the data, and we harmonize it in the enhanced drop zone to derive exactly the correct attributes, which are rather technical and not maybe that easy for a solo to understand why we need this now. And then Fpsl can again be used for what it's there, for the accounting part, for the delta calculation. And this way, we used this architecture to solve a gap which we identified between VAG methodology and the calculations we had available in Fpsl to find a solution even for a complex topic. And we've been in contact with the peers, Munich Re, Swiss Re. I've had various discussions about ways how to solve exactly this question. And the conclusion currently is that what we've done at VAG is an accepted and probably the best current available solution for this topic. So yeah, we've seen how from use cases we can come via architecture to good solutions, and as Carsten said, a successful implementation and transition into the comparative period.
Goal was to use the functionality which is available and to establish workarounds if necessary, and not to stuck in the implementation.
And I think we managed this pretty good. Good. Then, Bernhard, over to you.
Thank you very much. So I will now not take you to the whole history of the project, but still give you, let's say, some of our highlights, and we'll focus on one topic which was, for us, from our perspective, one of the key elements of coming to a successful implementation, now starting in the comparative period, which we are calling this run principle. I will come to that later in detail and explain to you how we approached here. So this is just the timeline, just a very, very short overview. We started quite early, also in 2018. We have performed a financial impact analysis in the past. We are now already done with our implementation in the basic principles, but now, of course, prepared ourselves for the comparative period with one part here called group-wide dry runs. This was a principle what we applied, which more or less replicated a whole business year under the idea of already applying IFRS 17/9. This was, on the one hand, for us valuable because we could test the whole architecture what we have prepared. So what the colleagues built up was completely tested with real-life data from 50 entities. The whole data collection stream was tested, and of course also business-wise we had the, let's say, real big advantage that we are, of course, already close 2020, which was the year what we replicated under IFRS 4 and also IAS 39, and we had the comparative figures from this year available. So we had always the possibility to benchmark our results coming out of this dry run to the numbers what we have already closed in 2020. And now, of course, what we are currently doing is the comparative period here, finalizing currently opening balance and then going on with course of the quarterly closings. Here, just very shortly, the value added, what we have tried throughout the whole program to apply is to not only implement IFRS 17 and IFRS 9, but of course to also create a certain level of harmonization, where this called enhanced drop sum was one initial and crucial part for us to be applied, which makes for us possible to even have an idea about navigating our entities which are on different source systems, so we have no control over the source system, but what we are having a control of is the layer in between, because they need to connect to this layer, and this is something what was, of course, not only driven by IFRS 17/9, because this is something, of course, there's way more value behind than only applying IFRS 17/9, which is, of course, good too, but still, there's way more. And just here, also summarized, reduce complexities. We are trying to come to lean processes as much as possible throughout the process. Of course, we have realized throughout the whole dry runs, certain processes are taking way too long. This was not expected by us, so of course we try to improve to make it even possible to reach the timeline and to come to a timeline which is possible for us to, of course, afterwards also close. Yeah. Coming to the next slide, this is an idea on how we approached the whole dry run and of course also now our comparative period, which was from our perspective one of the also very important parts to have a solo SPOC construction. So we had one representative which is assigned for each specific area to the entity, and this is also the contact point for also from our side, but also from the local entity side. Because we realized, of course, having 50 entities and having in the whole program around 900 people working within the program, it's difficult for an entity to know to whom to go. So they had their SPOC get contacted, probably also navigates them to another point, but still it's the first contact point, they know who to approach, and of course also the solos are reporting them back to us. This you have written here, at the end we're having a complete overview with a limited number of people, which makes it possible, of course, also during a meeting session to navigate and to talk not to 900 people, but at the end maybe to 20 people, and getting also the possibility to rearrange quite easily. Because the solo SPOC is then carrying decisions back to their solo entities, back to the relevant systems, but and also, of course, also to systems which are not governed by us. The systems you have written here, they are governed by us, so we have the control, so we are providing the SPOC. But on the other hand, there are, of course, source systems and so on, which are on the end of the local entity. And this is, of course, something what also needs to be addressed, but cannot be controlled by us. So this is a responsibility done on the local side. And applied this principle, we have made our road to the comparative period. We realized, of course, we got Fpsl, and we realized Fpsl is more or less focused on, of course, to apply the standard IFRS 17, and IFRS 17 is unfortunately a relatively complex standard. So, of course, at the end, also Fpsl was for us hard to understand, because there was so much data pushed into, and then a number came out, and it was quite difficult to know, is this number now what I expected? Or was my delivery probably wrong, or is the calculation not like we wanted it to have? So we decided we need to have this split in different levels, and of course each level was, of course, extended in the overall volume and input. We started with this called artificial data run. At that point, we just decided we are artificially creating a portfolio and push it in Fpsl, and let's see what happens. Yeah? Very easy was the first step, but even this step gave us an idea on how the use cases, what we designed, are interacting with each other. Because each use case, of course, we tested each use case, but we didn't know interaction. Is there probably a problem caused because of an interaction we didn't know? So we just pushed artificial data through the system. And then, coming to the content run. Content, of course, here we already connected the actuarial systems to Fpsl. So having more or less real data, but not complete real data, not a complete business, but we told our entity, send us your biggest 10 portfolios. And again, let's see what happened. Follow up on this, having real data could be understood by the entity. Of course, they know how they are valuing their portfolios now, and they have a comparative figure to what afterwards comes out of Fpsl. Created, again, an additional step what we could make coming to the pilot full run. This was, within our project, one of the major decisions to create pilot entities. In our case, these are our two biggest markets, which is Austria and Czech Republic. The entities from those countries were working as pilots. So these are, for us, the biggest, but of course, on the other hand, also our fast movers. So we could give them more or less the capability to make a complete run, but only for those two entities, which is from our point of view, of course, from governance perspective, easier to only have those entities and not all of them. And on the other hand, of course, creating for us the value and the input coming from these entities, and of course also for us the possibility to improve and to prepare for the last, which was the full run, the group-wide dry run. This was more or less the real complete overview through all our systems, with all our entities preparing for the comparative period. To not start the comparative period not knowing how the whole process should look like. So this was our step-by-step approach, coming at the end, of course, to a readiness for the comparative period. And now, I'm ready for questions. We are ready for questions, I think.
Great.
And we are on time.
Maybe I use 1 minute.
Yep.
We started with a vision, and I wanted to end up with a vision. So our vision for sure is to create added value. One added value is to decrease TCO, total cost of ownership, for sure, in the operative part, where our added value is to create more information out of the data in the machine. Yeah, so we think it's possible to make projections directly in Fpsl, to bring actuals and estimates together, to combine it maybe with artificial intelligence, and to enable the machine to make calculations without taking in new data, because this process is too slow, too complicated, and so on. Another vision would be to use the machine for ALM topics and so on. And it was very nice to have good discussions for that this week with SAP and SAP Pioneer. So thank you very much. It was nice to speak here. And now, if we have questions.
There are no questions online. However, if anybody in the room has a question, we still have 5 minutes left. If anybody wants to ask, please.
We have more than one entity in each of these countries. So we are not having one single entity in each country. So we are having, for example, in Czech Republic, we have 3 entities. So of course we have more entities than we are having countries. So all our countries are onboarded. There are no exceptions. It's just a different splitting of the entities in our case.
And we've performed for each company the transition until now, and started the Q1, Q2 run.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Yep, Tom. Oh, wait. Oh, we have one. Oh, sorry. There's another one online? Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Rajesh. So just wanted to know that because FPSL and IFRS 17 is a new topic, right? And to start having this implementation, need to have a good team, and the knowledge of the team should be up to that where they can implement this complex scenario, right? So how did you manage to keep the knowledge updated for your team members, and what was the team size you had for this implementation?
Yeah, on one side, for sure, as everybody, I think we scaled up by external experts, and we tried to transfer this knowledge by integrated work groups. So, by example, to bring our business units together with IFB colleagues from FPSL side, to enable them in interpreting the results. On the other side, to include the people into the actual models, to take over as well their knowledge, and the same for the IT part, to bring our IT really together with our implementation partner, and to transfer some of the tasks step by step to them. And for sure, I think there can't be a big bang for the handover. We need some kind of transition period where we still use some services by our partners, and we will bring some service by ourselves, and we will increase our own services time by time.
Okay, we have a couple more questions on. Thank you, because it wasn't showing up on my other machine. So are you performing comparatives only for Q2 and year-end 2022?
Shall I? I could also, yeah. We decided, of course, based on the tremendous workload you have for each of the quarterly deliveries, to focus really to have a Q2, because this is at least way more representative than a Q1, and on the other hand is also a figure what you need to disclose next year. It's also from our regulational perspective that Q2 is a must-have for us. A Q1 is a nice-to-have. A Q3 is, again, something what could be questioned, but is already way more representative than a Q1. A Q1 is more or less, we all know that it's not the most representative quarter. Yeah? So, of course, it was for us a decision to reduce the workload, focus on a Q2, focus in parallel also on a parallel planning project what we are having to plan under IFRS 17 and 9, which is focused also on the Q2.
We derived the minimum data set for Q1, which we need to perform a complete Q2 run.
Mm-hmm.
How much percentage of customization did you have to do to tailor it to your needs?
So from business content to what we have today, I guess is the question. Well, a lot. But yeah, I don't know, by percentage, it's very difficult to say. VAG is a really large company, and of course, we had a custom chart of accounts with more than 300 general ledger accounts to derive, and this requires then already the granularity on the subledger level. So percentage, hard to say, but the customizing is big. So like general ledger derivations on balance sheet side, this is more than 300 rules, I think.
So this kind of relates to the next question was, did you come across any business requirements, use cases, which could not be addressed by the standard Fpsl implementation?
Well, we had use cases which were more complex than others, no doubt. And we have topics like the one I presented, where the VAG requirement is very specific, and we found a way not to maybe 100% match the requirement, but we came close. And this is currently the case on every topic. Maybe not 100% of the original requirements, but we implemented every topic, every use case, and
so I think
successfully.
we didn't need any big custom implementation.
No, so we did not implement custom functions, like really the coding. We went with the customizing and data enrichments, data harmonization up front.
Great. One last question. How do you deal with methodological topics that are, again, under discussion during the comparative period?
With assumptions.
Yeah, I think this is the. I think we all know when there are now regulation changes how long the chain is afterwards to apply, for example, now 10 different use cases and test them again. So of course we are following our assumption as long as there's a real decision to change a method, because this is, yeah, from my perspective, I think we can all agree simply impossible to now change within a short time frame during comparative period the method, yeah? Because then we had a different method for the opening balance and then continue with Q2 and applying a different one creates at the end pretty sure complete nonsense, yeah.
So I really recommend that don't wait, need assumptions, start, that's it.
Okay, I lied.
Same for Solvency.
I lied. One more quick question. What technology did you choose for the integration standardization layer? SAP HANA or other?
For the integration layer, I think we talked about that, so it's SQL technology, and we would be glad to transfer that to SAP.
Okay, well, that wraps it up. Thanks, everybody. The great questions. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Great. Yep. Thank you.